The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Thank you for joining us for another sizzling session of Triversity Talk. I am Wendy Stewart Kaplan.
And I am Stephen Bloomer Teague.
We have such an exciting guest tonight. But before we tell you about our guest, we want everybody to know that not only are we live on Facebook, but you'll be able to catch the show a few days from now on our YouTube channel, which brings us to the...
Well, I already shared on our Facebook. If you're watching this live on Facebook, you can see in our comments, there is a link to our YouTube page. People can also watch this live on YouTube right now. So we are airing on Facebook and YouTube
so
live.
They can watch it live on YouTube now.
Yes, they can watch it live.
All the more reason to subscribe to the Triversity page on YouTube.
Subscribe to our YouTube page and smash the like button on this Triversity Talk tonight, because this guest is particularly likable. Definitely worth more than one thumbs up.
He is likable. Now, I know a lot of you know him because he's the kind of guy that gets around, right? And charming and personable, charismatic. I would like to invite into our studio James Angelo Campistros. Hey.
Hello, people. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Really good.
Really happy to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you.
So, you guys, we made this all work. This is so complicated sometimes, right? We have so many technical, we call it technical difficulties. I think CMS is the one that coined that term, but we wanted to bring you James live, and it was a little challenging there, and there you are. So happy.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're here. And one of the things about tonight that's really special, James, and we'll talk about this. James had gotten the coronavirus as a nurse, right? He was at ground zero, frontliners. You hear those terminologies all the time, but you often don't get to talk to anybody that is someone that you know, love, and adore that has been through it. So, James, can you share your experience with us here tonight?
Sure. And thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
We love you.
Yeah. It was 11 weeks total that I was actually out of work, but the first 5 weeks were completely debilitating. I find, I think myself as a active person in pretty good health, eat right and everything, and I was down and out for 5 weeks. It was scary. It was that bad. It started out with some GI stuff. At that time, the edict came down to hospitals that you couldn't have any procedures at all. No elective procedures. So I was planned to go for a colonoscopy, but that was off the table. So I actually got tested. My first test was negative. I walked around for around 3 weeks, and then I was like, I just can't do this anymore. They lifted the procedures. So actually, the very next day, I think it was a Tuesday after Memorial Day, I got to see my doc. He scheduled it for that Thursday, and you had to go for another COVID test. And I went, and it was positive.
James, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to ask you, to your knowledge, is that common to test negative and then test positive later? Do we know how effective these tests are?
These tests are getting better, but initially they were not so great. COVID is not a disease that had been on the books before. So believe it or not, infectious disease people and doctors, it's learning as you go. They've had, some Ebola viruses, et cetera, but this one is truly unique and different. So even the big ID doctors going, we know we're a step ahead of you. We're not light years ahead of you. We're just a step or two ahead of you. It's from our patients that we're learning. And they learned a lot from Italy. They learned a lot from Europe. But when it came here, it really hit hard. So the tests are getting better, but they're not great.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right, go ahead.
You were sick how many weeks already? We were like, 5 weeks sick by the time you did test positive?
I was around 3 to 5 weeks sick before I was classified as being COVID. Wow. And then after that, it was 11 weeks.
11 weeks.
After that.
Yeah, after that. Yeah, it was from Memorial Day. The first week was just, I was in a fog. I knew very little. All I wanted to do was sleep. At that time, all I could eat were grapes, and I drank as much fluid as I could. I could not even stomach food. I don't think I lost my sense of smell or taste, but couldn't tell you. I was really out of it. It wasn't until around the third week that I started to feel a little better. People say this is like the flu. Well, in a way, the worst of the flu, when you have the body aches and the fever and the nausea and all that, times 5 weeks.
That's very long time to feel like this.
Yeah, that same consistent, feeling of achiness and pain and discomfort for 5 weeks with no let up. I can see why people not in the shape that I'm in don't make it. It was truly devastating on the body.
Now, you talked about in the story that you wrote for the Pike County Courier how you did certain exercises to kind of keep your respiratory system in check. Can you describe those to people?
Yes, yeah. I was an athlete in a former life, and we breathe a little different than you. We actually train we train our lungs a little bit differently. There's 5 ways you can breathe. One is to breathe using your back, expanding your back. The other one is each side, so like underneath your arms, you just blow out your lungs that way. You can move the top of your lungs, up through your and under your shoulders and collarbone, your chest, and the last one is when you blow out your stomach and everything else. And I did those religiously every day, morning, noon, and night, every day religiously. I would do around a rep of 10. And that I really think that helped a lot in me maintaining my respiratory status.
I also think, James, you were very vocal on Facebook about this from the beginning. And one of the things you started telling people who, when you were hearing they had COVID, I was one of them, how to breathe. Now, I couldn't all those different ways that you could do. I would have needed directions to come with it. One of the ways you told me about expanding my lungs and holding my breath. And not only did it really help me, how many people have we passed that on to? I mean, all over, not just, not just in our county, all over. So, the fact that you were so vocal about this, I think was very helpful, and that you helped a lot of people. You brought up a good point. The doctors don't know. They don't know. And they will tell you. You ask a question and they say, we just don't know. So I feel it's up to anyone that's had COVID to share their information. And I have to commend you, not only by the article in the Pike County Courier, but from everything that you wrote on Facebook about, adamant about wearing face masks, what they do, how to take care of yourself during this. You've really helped a lot of people. You are to be commended for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Regarding face masks, you're always, no matter what you talk about, you're always going to have outliers. And that's kind of a norm. But here you have all these scientists and physicians and these people who have been doing this for a really, really long time, telling you, put on a piece of fabric. I don't get it when, you get these fly-by nights, these 1 or 2 offs that tell you something different. It's okay. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine, but you need to restrict yourself then. Accountability and responsibility are yours. It's no one else's. No one's going to take accountability or responsibility for you. If you choose not to wear a mask, then you have to abide by not hurting anyone else. In the medical field as a nurse, it's like do no harm is the medical model. And that's what we all lived in. If you don't want to do it for yourself, fine, but don't harm other people because you don't want to do it.
Absolutely.
Because you're feeling selfish.
I mean, it's so stunning. And not to get into maybe why this happened, but it just is really disturbing that masks have become a political statement. Unfortunately, not a health concern. And but wear a damn mask.
What I think is interesting.
Please.
With the mask, I call it now mask culture, right? Because we become a culture, we have to wear masks all over the world, not just here.
Right.
It is actually the only tangible thing we have at this point that's working. But it's very interesting to me because I've gone into a number of the big box stores recently, and every good little doobie, they have their masks on. And why? Because they were told they have to. Now, how different would this pandemic have been if the people at the head said, listen, you know what? It is going to spread, but we can keep it spreading less. Today, I read that Italy was a mess. Italy has it under control. If the heads of government turn around and say, we're wearing masks, everybody, you have to do that too. It would have been a whole different outcome.
It would have. I mean, you take New York for it. New York. Tremendous casualties, but you had people doing what they needed to do.
Yeah. Of
all cultures, we're talking about the melting pot. Everybody sucked it up, did what they got to do. And, now it's a success story.
Right. That's absolutely a good point. I will tell you, though, here I see many, many more masked people, much more than many weeks ago. So that's a good thing.
Good.
A lot of us feel, though, like we really have a big fight ahead of us. And I'm curious, James, with you have had the disease. How did you feel? I know you were anxious to get back to work because nursing for you is, you've been at ground zero. I mean, you went through the entire AIDS epidemic. You are a nurse, you are a caregiver. So, but didn't you think about, I would have been personally a little afraid of, oh my gosh, I could catch it again. So what kind of mindset set you back to work?
Well, of course, I'm afraid that I could still catch it, but I've been a nurse for 40 plus years, and my schooling, which is a little different than now, ingrained in me what I needed to do, and so the front line for me, I've been there many times. I've been there in a medical setting. I've been there in an Army nurse setting. So I get it. I have those experiences to draw on. And there are some rules that you need to follow, and you got to follow them. I was never had the opportunity or the pleasure of someone saying, well, I really don't want to follow that rule. It's like, you need to follow it, and you do. And I stayed safe for so many years. You know, there's a lot of other diseases worse than COVID, like hepatitis A, B, and C, you know, and all of that. So, you know, you just got to follow the rules. That's what gets me about not following the science. I don't understand it, because New York is a proven point. You follow the science, you get success, you know?
Yeah, follow the science and you get success. But if the science is undermined, right? If you're calling doctors fakes and you're bringing out quote unquote cures, which are fakes. I never can pronounce the name. What is that malaria drug? I've taken malaria pills because I've worked in Africa. What's a malaria drug?
Hydrochlora malaria drug.
Hydrochlora.
Malaria drug.
Whatever. Malaria
We know
drug.
what it is.
Yeah. And,
well, you know, it may...
Maybe eventually, but not yet.
It may work for some people. You know, medicine is not 100%. And I think, you know, you could have the same type of disease entity in 5 people, and they're going to present and going to have different outcomes. That's medicine. People think that, well, if you know what it is and you take this drug, it's going to make you better. When in fact, this drug can kill some people.
Well, yeah, we saw it with AZT during AIDS, right? How many people were killed? Yeah. A lot of people took AZT. So your point is very valid that, you know, it may not be for everybody. Now you have a military background, which I that's really interesting.
Hold on, before you dive into that,
just dive in. Okay.
I went to Balch's yesterday, and I'm driving by, and I'm like, oh, look at that handsome fella who's like right on the pole, you know, because right in front of Balch's is James's military picture. And
oh my gosh, I haven't seen that with a beret, because he's got you have a beret on in that, right?
No. That was my initial Army picture. That was before the Ranger world.
That's odd. I love the beret. Oh, I have to check him.
I know. I hope you not. One day I was just driving by and I was like, I know him.
You have to use your imagination. There's hair and a mustache. I mean, it's a new look.
Listen, all that matters is that, you know, your image is up there and everything that you stand for. Right. And speaking of everything you stand for, you know, we always talk to people like they're coming out, or, you know, when they came out, or what was it like? And I don't know. I'd like to open up that door with you for a second.
It's kind of cool. I became a dancer at 14. I danced in the summer program with Mikhail Baryshnikov for 2 years. And
right.
When I was about 12 or 13, I was dancing at this little studio. I was only been there for about 6 to 8 months. And the mistress said, bring in your mother. My mother was very ill that way, so I brought in my aunt. And she said, I'm really sorry. There's nothing else I could teach him. And I took that as a bad thing. And what she meant was that I've actually surpassed her. So she said, go to this open dance number, etc., and you'll go. So my aunt got me on the bus. We went into the city. I tried out, and I actually made the program.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really cool. So at the first year, you know, in the fall, I think it was like right before Labor Day or Labor Day. I was 14, and I actually became a solo in the front. And yeah, it was really kind of, I didn't know what it meant back then. But yeah, I got to dance in front with a really great partner. His name was Bray. He was Swedish. I was 5'2" back then. He was 6'1".
Wow.
And when he jumped, I had to match his jump height.
Get out.
Oh,
so he would jump 4 feet in the air. I would jump 6 feet in the air to match him. So I got to be a really good jumper. Anyway, at the end was this program, you know, the fall finale. And I was there, and everyone was hugging me. They were like really good job. This one guy kissed me right on the mouth. And fluttered me a little bit. Got dressed, went home with my aunt on the bus, and I'll never forget. She said to me, "I'm very proud of you for you being you." And then she paused and she says, "And you danced really well too."
Oh, wow.
That's so nice.
That's your favorite aunt that you've spoken about too.
She was a doll. She was a doll.
So that was your first kiss. My God.
That was my first kiss and my first realizing, oh, okay. My phone's dying, so I have to go run for 2 seconds. Give me a minute.
Okay. And we'll cut to a commercial break. No, that was just a joke. Let's see if we have questions in our chat.
I don't think there have been any questions at the moment, but worth saying, if you have any questions, everyone, just shoot those out there and we will take them as they come, or we'll take them at the end, depending.
James is just plugging in. He's recharging his battery. I've had that happen too. Just take your time, do what you need to do. Don't even worry about us. We're all fine here. Yeah, anybody? Hi to everybody. There's James. He's back.
We're back.
Hey,
welcome.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Oh, you just went upside down on us. Oh, I'm getting
upside down. Okay.
There
Am I
you
better
go.
now? Here. How about this?
Oh, this is fun. Love technology.
Isn't
that great? It's so much
fun.
No, we lost him.
I know we lost him.
It's going so well
boy.
too.
Just
stay with us, everybody. We'll get him back. We hope we get him back there. And think of some questions that you might want to ask James. Okay, and I hope everybody had a really, really good weekend. Yesterday was a gorgeous day, right?
Absolutely beautiful. And yeah.
Did you do something fun yesterday?
Did I do something fun?
I don't remember what I did.
I went to Balch's where I saw James's beautiful picture.
You did?
Yeah,
right.
So we went to Balch's. We sat outside. That was lovely. And then
what did you eat? Balch's is a fish restaurant. For those of you that don't know, they have great fish. What did you order?
And I do not like seafood or fish, so I ordered chicken strips. Isn't that inventive?
Okay, you leave it to Steven. He ordered chicken strips at a fish restaurant.
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
When in Rome, don't do what the Romans do. That's what we learned from that. I've been there, I think, like 2 times. I always get salmon. Salmon is like my staple. So what did you do today? We were supposed to go rafting today on the Delaware. You know, we're so lucky here in Pike County where the Delaware runs through it. We can reenact Deliverance anytime we want. And we do.
Unless there are thunderstorms like there were today. But we've got our boy James back. So we're going to bring him back to the stream.
Welcome back. There you go.
Hello, people.
Hi, James. James is back with us. Can you hear us?
I'm back. I can hear you. It's great.
Okay, it's all good in the world. So we were talking about your first kiss and dance, and then you were a figure skater at one point too, right?
And this is my thing.
Yes, I was. I went with a bunch of friends, and we went to Walden's Rink in New York. And is that me? Oh yeah.
No.
Okay. So I was watching. Better. So I was watching this figure skater and I was copying what she was doing. So this lady came over to me and said, "Come here." And so I went over and she said, "Do this." And she showed me and I did it. And she said, "Well, try this." And I did that and it was a jump. And I'm like, "Okay." She said, so I did it. And she said, "I need you to come to this place in Paramus." And just show up, and that started my skating career.
And now, how old were you when this happened?
16.
So at 14, he danced with Baryshnikov, and at 16,
14 and 15, and that ended. Then 16, I went into skating. I was picked up by the Skating Association for the Northeast, and I zipped through a whole bunch of stuff and made the 1976 Olympic team.
Oh my God, I never knew that. Wow.
And I did compulsories, which were back then, and I was practicing for my short program, which was next, and I fell into the stands and broke my back.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
That was that.
Yeah, so no more skating. But I did go back to dancing.
So I have questions. I watched that John Curry performance because I knew we were going to talk about this, where he's Quixote, and I mean, just one of the most beautiful figure skaters I think there's ever been.
And you love skating.
I love skating. But I have a question. I mean, given where you were in your career, did you ever get a chance to meet and know the darling of the '76 Olympics, Miss Dorothy Hamill?
Oh yeah, she was very sweet. She was a very, very nice person, very quiet, very timid, lovely, absolutely lovely. Back then it was a little different than today. You know, you did a lot of stuff in isolation. It wasn't until the long program that you really got to like be with other people. But you know, they were very nice. Everyone was really nice.
It was nice. So, did you have to learn things? What is it? The triple Lutz or a quadruple? How many Lutzes? You would know this.
Well, I mean, in '76, what would have been the hardest triples you were doing at the time?
I didn't like the triple sow cow. Did not like that at all.
Triple sow cow, right?
It's so funny.
Yeah, not my favorite.
That is widely considered the easiest jump. But if there are certain people,
I did not. Give me the hard stuff. I just could not get that.
Quincy Yamaguchi, and who was the other one? Oh God.
Quincy Yamaguchi. I mean, a triple sow cow for her was practically impossible. When she landed, I mean, people would jump for joy.
It's hard, like, you know, to be fair, if you have short legs, don't you? What do you think about that, James? So how much of it has to do with the length of your legs?
Well, I jumped really high, so I never had a problem with jumps.
Wow.
Well, again, you had to jump really high because you were competing with that
good-looking guy from Sweden. That we were talking.
Yeah, Bray.
So after,
you have to remember that skates back then were stainless steel with this big, heavy boot. Now you have these composite skates with this sneaker boot, and so you don't have to bring so much up in the air with you.
Oh yeah,
so it's different.
Like when you go up, you're taking less with you.
Oh, but they're doing more revolutions too.
That's what I mean. That's what I said to you about that triple the Lutzes or the Lutzes.
Yeah.
It's not a Lutz.
Girl,
all right.
Triple axles, yeah.
You're skating tall.
I was like dropping things that I knew, and you just shamed me.
I totally shamed you.
So James, you broke your back, and then what was next for you?
I actually was on a circle electric bed. That's where they put tongs in your head.
I've seen that, yeah, to flip you.
And they put you on the bed and they flip you every so many hours. I was on that for 2 months. That was not pretty. After that, I went back to dancing, and I was a gypsy dancer. And a gypsy dancer back then, and this is what, the 70s?
Yeah.
It's around the late mid 70s. It was someone that could jump in for here or there to get to help the Broadway people leave another position or get ready to go for it. So you danced everything. I think the worst night I ever had is I danced 3 positions in one night. So that was fun. So I danced a couple of things, but my favorite was this little show that came from England. It was where men had to dress up, and that's where my alter ego Sugar came from.
Oh my gosh, I don't know this story, James.
I get to know these things because I write these things for the judges for Your Heart Talent Show.
So you knew that already.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to tell us about this.
So the show was called La Cage aux Folles, and it was the second row of casting, And they called me in. They said, "What are you doing for the next 3 days?" And I said, "Well, nothing. Come on in. I need you to sit. I need you to dance for me for a couple spots." And the producer would call, and I'm like, "Okay." And no one knew who I was. It was usually myself, maybe another guy, that we would dance, and we'd just go in, stay by the curtain, not do anything, come out when you had to dance, go back, be really quiet. We got paid by cash. It was $200, which was a lot of money back then.
That is a lot in cash.
Yeah. So we danced, what they told us to dance. And that was it. I actually made it on stage 3 times due to illness. So that was kind of fun. That was kind of fun.
That is
yeah. I still have the dress. I still have the dress I danced in. Yeah.
In the garage where you have the Sugar character, of course, and you'll feel
Sugar.
Yeah, Sugar just stopped from this.
Yeah, what happened was, as you get to know people, dancers can be really not pretty, so you just try to stay away. But they'll tell you when you can come and chat with them. So they said, "Oh, come on down and sit down." And he says, "Like, look, darling, you've been here a long time, so we have to give you a name." And I'm like, "Okay. You look like a Sugar. All right, good. And we got to give you a last name." So they said, "You have no lips, so we're going to call you Sugar Lipska."
Oh my gosh!
And she was born. And what I did is, the dancing on the stage was fun, but I loved interacting with the audience before. We would go out and say hello to people. We would walk up and down the aisles, and that was I knew I had come alive. That was my calling.
Well,
so that's Sugar.
Well, a lead into Sugar, because I would say at one point, Sugar, at least to me, was the queen of Triversity. I mean, when it was the UAT Center, and then at Triversity, and Simone asked us a question that I'm going to put on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, how did James find Triversity?
I have been living up here since 2004, and I don't know. Prior to Carrie, when did Carrie start? When was he?
I don't know when he was on the board. He was probably executive director in like 2015.
So that's when he moved here.
Now that I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Years earlier than that.
The year before he moved here, that I could narrow it down that way. There was this little group, Triversity, and they said, "You should come." I think we went to a First Friday, and it was down at Bob and I were eating at, I think it was the Best Western, and they said, "You should really go down there. There's a really nice group there." Daryl sent us there, and we were there. So it was kind of fun. That's how we met. It was in our First Friday. Met a whole bunch of wonderful people, and actually made some lifelong friends from there.
Prior to that time, I remember reading, you were doing fundraisers and around Pike County, and I think New Jersey has this Sugar character. And I think you had been out here about around 2 years. And I said to people, who is this Sugar? Listen, I know every drag queen in the world. I didn't know Sugar. Like, who the heck is Sugar? And they said, "Oh, his real name is James. He's an event planner, and he decorates. He does all these really cool things, and he does this character named Sugar." And shortly after that, I guess you came to our First Friday, and then I think the first event you did with us was our LGBTQ prom as Sugar, right?
Yes. That was the first one.
Sugar for us.
Wow.
And the thing about Sugar that I will always love, Sugar will always be in my mind's eye for me, was how wonderful you greeted everyone, how you made, it's what you said, that your big thing was to do that audience warm up, to go out there.
Oh, I love that.
You did that at every one of our events. And, public affairs are often awkward for people, right? And I remember the first prom that we gave, our first LGBTQ prom, we were jumping in. We didn't really know what to expect. We had kids, we had adults who had never been to a prom. I was one of them. And we had kids there. We had this mixture of people. And there was Sugar. You were like everybody's fabulous aunt that was at the Viennese table. That's what you did. And you just.
I don't believe that Sugar would have been the first person at the Viennese table.
You were just so warm and welcoming. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. The best part, and people still tell me many years ago, when I first came here, United Way was having a fundraiser that Tom Quick had reopened. Right. And they said, can you be the hostess there? And it was really great. Like tons of people showed up. And they made like over $10,000 clear. It was like amazing. And then I took, as a promo for that, I walked around to every business in Matamoros and Pike County and Jersey and Port Jervis, went in, took pictures with everybody. And for a lot of people, that was the first time they ever met a LGBT person.
Right. Wow. Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of nice. It was nice.
That speaks really volumes. I know with our picnic, with our Pride event, he went to every business and gave them rainbow flags. That's not easy to do.
It's not easy to do. I find doing that in, being on the board of Triversity and such, one of the hardest things in the world for me to get out there and you face that potential rejection and say, will you put this flag up? So I mean, you don't think about it, but that does take tremendous bravery.
Tremendous bravery. And people came through our town and most of the stores were decorated with rainbow flags. I mean, and there are people that still talk about that. They knew that they wanted to be here, wanted to buy a home here. They knew it was LGBTQ friendly community, and you contributed so much to that. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So James, on this front, I learned just today, or Wendy called me and said, you came out of the closet fairly late in life, right? At 50,
I was a skater. I was I knew that I was different. I did have some really eccentric friends, as my grandmother used to call them. But it took me till around 24 to really figure it out. And then, I did meet someone and we were together for many years. And then, we were cousins. That's how bad it was back then.
Wow.
So, you know what? I don't think I would give any of that back because I have such appreciation of where we are today.
Absolutely. By the way, I have to tell you this because it came in the chat. Your husband said that you never mentioned anything about the Swede to him, that your husband's part Swedish, but you never told him about the other Swede.
That's so wrong. That's kind of
happened on Triversity Talk. So, moving right along. There you go. Tell us about what you're doing with the high school kids here.
Oh, they're great. I have always, in high school, I've always been different. And I was able to teach the color guard back then. And I was in the drum and bugle corps, and I got to play a horn, and I hated it because I wanted to be on the color guard, but they didn't have male color guards. I did eventually march for a couple of years in the Hawthorne Caballeros, and then the Connecticut Hurricanes, and that was fun. Then life took its turn. Then I came here, and then one day I just walked up to the band director. I said, "Hey, do you need a color guard instructor?" And he's like, "Yeah." The band was only 3 years old. They had one, but she got pregnant, so she was leaving. And I've been there ever since. It's really nice to be able to do that. I get to, actually, it's color guard season. We got new uniforms and new flags, and going to be really cool. Really cool.
I can tell you, I mean, between figure skating and color guard, I was a big band nerd growing up. And I'm like, I just love it. I mean, pretty much your life is just like
Just
so
what you
fascinating
wanted, right?
to
Just
me.
what you wanted.
So, I mean, so you did Drum Corps International, Drummer and Bugle Corps. Have any of the people you've instructed gone on to do Drum Corps?
Yes. I every once in a while, I that's why I like Facebook. Every once in a while, I'll get someone who goes, "Do you remember when?" That's kind of cool. That really is cool. Yeah, it was really. There's a lot of I didn't come from a lot of money, so I had to make sure that I could do things that didn't cost a lot. And back then, not now, but back then, Drum and Bugle Corps was not expensive at all. So, you just gravitated to it. It was very eclectic and very, brash, and that's me.
So I'm going to ask you a seemingly random question, and it kind of ties figure skating and what you're doing with color guard together.
Mm-hmm.
There was this big shakeup in the figure skating world just this last week. Alina Kosternaya, who in all likelihood would have been the world champion, but for COVID, left her very famous coach, Ateri Tuparitsa. Now, Ateri Tuparitsa's school of figure skating has gotten a bit of a bad reputation, rumors of abuse and things like that. So I want to ask you, as an instructor, where do you draw the line between maintaining focus and discipline versus having these kids' well-being and being, fully functioning adults for the rest of their lives?
I try to instruct via pearls of wisdom that they can carry with them. For example, if they don't do something well, or they have an attitude, it's like, you try to say, well, you can feel anywhere you want. I'm having a little phone issue.
You're fine. Get back up on the ice.
I'm just flying all over the place. You try to be very supportive, but at the same time, you have to tell them no, or it's no, it's not the best you've ever done, and you have to be honest with them. It's all in the how you bring it to them. Sometimes you lose your cookies. We all do, not in a vulgar way, but you just you say, all right, this kid has a lot on their plate too. So, they're choosing to do this. So how can I make it fun, but make it productive for them and get the results that I want? And it's different for every kid. And you have to individualize it. Abuse, skating, I did not have that, but I did see it. Dancing, I danced Russian. And it's a little bit different than the American or the French. There was no choice in doing it right. You did it right. And you did it over and over and over and over and over and over until you got it right. So, yeah, there was a little bit of abuse there, but it was really more cultured under, I know you can do better. I know that wasn't the right thing to do. Try this, try that. So, even though you're jumping 40 times, it was never, I never felt abused. And I did come from an abusive family life. So I would have picked up on it. And it wasn't, not at all. It was actually very comforting for me.
Wow. Interesting story, James. You have a really, really interesting story.
Absolutely.
I keep, in my mind's eye, I keep going back. Stephen, have you ever been over to James's house? He has a giant picture on the wall. It's of your ballet shoes and your calves. It's
my calf, yeah.
From the knees down, and he's on point. And it's still so incredible when I think of that, the power in the muscles and the point. standing on your toes like that. And in many ways, that image for me really defines you. You know, strong, powerful, nothing going to stop you. Just going to forge right ahead and do your thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have another question from Simone, and it is: did Sugar know a Jerry Elia or Elia Elia while with the Hawthorne Caballeros?
In the Hawthorne Caballeros, I threw a rifle, so I was in the color guard. Back then, they were a little macho, so I don't remember. And that was a little while ago. That was like, you know, I'm 62 now, and that was a while ago. I don't remember, truthfully. That was in the, 80s. 79. That was 77, I think. 77, 78. I was friendly with everybody, but, back then you had to watch your back.
Yeah. Well, we have a nice comment from Mary Weber Krause. Sugar has the best jewelry. And Mary, I want to add into that and wigs as well. Absolutely, hair pieces extraordinaire.
I would say Sugar had the best jewelry until she raffled it all away at a prom 2 years ago.
Right. For Triversity,
which was so wonderful. Absolutely.
Right. And she,
I still have people, if they'll meet me social, they'll say, "Do you see this?" And they said, "This is a piece of sugar." And I have some people that will email me and said, "I am wearing Sugar's ruby necklace that I got. I can't believe it. It's the first time." It's like it's really nice to know that they're in such loving hands.
Really loving hands. I have earrings, necklaces from you, and when I wear them out, I tell everybody that they came from Sugar. And I usually have a hairpiece on that also came from you. And I want to tell people out there, Sugar told me the best trick to keeping your hairpiece really soft and beautiful and supple. You clean it in fabric softener.
Yeah.
You wash it. And the term Sugar said is you swish it. You swish
it, darling. Swish it.
Fabric softener. So. Well, thank you. That was a very, very helpful tip. Do you have something you'd like to tell people tonight?
I just want to say it's really important to take a breath before you say anything or do anything. Just take a breath. At your worst moment, take a breath. When you get bad news, take a breath. And hopefully you'll bring in some positive, or at best, you'll get rid of the negative. Before you say a nasty word, before you retort, just take a breath. Before you go do something positive, take a breath. Stay focused, stay in the present, make sure that your past doesn't creep up by those nasty words, and just make sure that you don't blow stuff out of proportion. Just take a breath. And I have a lot of people that I disagree with on a lot of things, but I love them to death. I love them to death.
Your Facebook page, I am like, I don't know, honey, if I could handle that. It's like, oh.
I think sometimes you're taking a lot of breaths on Facebook.
Pause, breathe.
Right.
A lot of people, I'm attracted to people who tell me the real deal. So when you look at my Facebook page, that's what you're going to see. Someone that I love dearly is going to say, "You are full of shit," and I like that. I want that truth and that reality, because at the end of the day, we could disagree, but we all have to live together.
We all have to live together. And I have to read this beautiful comment that Laura Chicornier wrote with such an amazing background. It is so great to have you continuing to inspire all of us, and that says it all. Wow. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
James, thank you for being here tonight.
Absolutely. This has been
It was
so
my pleasure.
informative. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, with thinking about COVID, wear your mask, be vigilant.
Be vigilant. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get through it. We'll all get through it,
Absolutely.
right?
We will. Just protect the vulnerable.
Protect the vulnerable. That's right. All right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. And
Good night.
And everybody, before we go, just again, if you're on our YouTube page, click subscribe and like. We would be so grateful. You can throw a live on this Facebook group, this Facebook Live video. We'd appreciate that as well. We love you guys. And we're going to be on hiatus next week because I'm going to Fire Island.
He's going to Fire Island, and I'm so technically poor, I can't figure out how to do this myself. I'm like, no, Stephen, don't leave me.
But we will be back in 2 weeks, and we cannot wait to see you then. So everyone, good night.
Good night.
And see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.